The endocannabinoid system is a primary modulating system. Its job is to maintain homeostasis or balance within our bodies. We discovered that we have our own endogenous, that means we produce ourselves, endogenous endocannabinoids. And the two that are part of the endocannabinoid system, the first one's called Anandamide. The word Ananda means bliss in Sanskrit. It's a bliss hormone, neurochemical that is expressed. It's like when we get runner's high, it is some endorphins, but it's also anandamide that's being released. The second endogenous endocannabinoid is called 2-AG. We produce these things to maintain balance and homeostasis.
Welcome to Hormone Heroes, where I share testimonials from real people who have experienced bioidentical hormone therapy. Men and women share the symptoms they have experienced and the difference proper hormone replacement has made. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Hopkins, and I have been in the functional medicine space for over 30 years, with a focus on hormones for 20 years. Please keep in mind this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult with your physician or practitioner for medical advice. Let's get started with today's guest.
Hi, and welcome to the podcast. Today, we are very excited. We have Mr. Len May with us today. He is the CEO and co-founder of EndoDNA, and he is an author. He wrote Jack of All Trades, Master of Some. So welcome, Len.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm very excited to talk to you today because mostly we're going to enter a world that I'm not as familiar with and then also talk about genetics and things like that. But just give us a little bit of your background and your story.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually born in Lithuania and I immigrated to the US when I was about 6 years old, my parents, and resided in Philadelphia. But when I got to learn language and all that stuff, I would be in school and the teacher would call me and my brain would be elsewhere. I wasn't paying attention. So I became disruptive and, my parents were called in and they took me to doctors and I was diagnosed with ADD. Back in the day, it was ADD and ADHD, and I wasn't a hyperactive kid, so it was only ADD. And they put me on prescription medication. And, I think it was like Ritalin, maybe something of that nature. I don't even remember. I didn't like the way it made me feel, which is actually not the right description. It didn't make me feel. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. You're just sort of existing through your day.
Yeah.
So I was going to, I think it was ninth grade maybe. I was hanging out with some older kids and they're like, hey, do you want to smoke a cigarette? It's like, yeah, I'll be cool. Okay, I'll smoke a cigarette. Sure. Never really questioned why they only had one cigarette, which was,
right.
They had one cigarette and they passed it around, took a drag. I'm like, it doesn't taste like a cigarette. I took another drag. They're laughing. Like, what? They ended up putting cannabis inside the cigarette.
Yes.
When I went back to class, the windows that were open in my brain sort of narrowed and I could focus. So I never told anybody that this was my medicine, but I gave up all prescription medication and went to cannabis. My parents weren't really happy about that. They would cash me. I would get in trouble. And when I was just about 18, my parents actually called the cops on me and tried to have me arrested and then kicked me out of the house. Now, the irony of this, my parents both consume products my company has patents on, and they're big fans of what we do. But at that time, I was devil's lettuce and all this stuff that they talked about with your brain on drugs with Nancy Reagan. I'm dating myself, but
right.
That's what we grew up with. And then went to a university, went to Temple University. It was physical therapy major, even though that wasn't really what I was interested in. But I opened up an internet company in 1983 out of that. And moved to Los Angeles. I had another startup that I exited out of as well. So I was moved to Los Angeles permanently 2009, 2010. And I was sitting in the real estate office trying to decide what I was going to do. And these guys walked in. They wanted to open up an alternative pharmacy. Everybody's like, what is that? Like you talk to them. So I said, what are you guys trying to open up? Alternative pharmacy. I'm like, really? What are you trying to open up? They're like, a dispensary, cannabis dispensary. I said, cool. Where's, you have to be compliant with this, that. They didn't know anything I was talking about. So I found them a space. They invited me to be a partner, asked me to be a partner. So we ended up opening up 4 more of those dispensaries under the same brand called Kush Kingdom. And what I kept seeing was 2 people consume the same varietal I'd have a completely different experience. So my ADD hyper-focused brain kicked in, and I started looking at why is this happening? I saw a video by a couple of people that were sequencing the cannabis plant. So, long story, a little bit longer. I contacted this company, went to work as a consultant. They taught me how to extract DNA from cannabis plants, how to sequence it. And we started the first library of different chemical varieties and put them on the blockchain. And the parent company of their company was doing pharmacogenomics testing. So, the study of how drugs affect individual bodies and contraindications between different medications. So I got into the human genetics side, and I had a light bulb moment one day. It was like, well, we have cannabis genetics here, we have plant genetics here, we have human genetics here. Let's bring those two together and guide people to a personalized experience. They weren't really interested in that. They ended up closing down the human side. So I got
Uh-huh.
lucky and grabbed some really smart scientists with me and launched EndoDNA in 2017. So that was our first foray into business with an endocannabinoid system, a test, and we got a patent on the use of DNA to make recommendations associated with the endocannabinoid system.
So this is where I'm just soaking all this up. I want you to educate me. I
Yeah.
was I was watching a talk that you did in South Africa, and a very impressive venue, by the way. Just you were talking about how you can test someone, and I'm going to really butcher this, but you can clean it up for me. Someone can take a gummy and it can really be a bad experience, but if they do a sublingual or something like that, that because of their genetic disposition, that works better for them. Will you expound on that
Yeah.
really poor job I just did?
Would it be helpful, Kelly, for me to sort of give an overview of what the endocannabinoid system is?
Absolutely, yes.
I think that we get it wrong, and we and doctors get it wrong because we're always looking at the ligand, the substance. Oh, this is what cocaine did to me. This is what cigarettes did to me, nicotine. But it's not about that. It's about our internal neurochemistry because we have receptors for a lot of these substances. And the feeling that we get is our own neurochemistry is being expressed. So same thing with the endocannabinoid system. We blame this plant, but it has nothing to do with it. It is our own neurochemistry. So the endocannabinoid system is a primary modulating system. Its job is to maintain homeostasis or balance within our bodies. It was discovered in 1992, which is not that long ago if you think about it.
Right,
A
yeah.
primary system, but it's 1992 by Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, was an Israeli scientist. I passed away a couple of years ago, but when he discovered this system, he discovered that we have our own endogenous, that means we produce ourselves, endogenous endocannabinoids. And the two that are part of the endocannabinoid system, the first one's called anandamide. So the word ananda means bliss in Sanskrit. So this is a bliss hormone, neurochemical that is expressed. And it's like when we get runner's high, they used to think it's all endorphins. Well, it is some endorphins, but it's also anandamide that's being released. The
Uh,
second endogenous endocannabinoid is called 2-AG. So we produce these things to maintain balance and homeostasis. And we're lucky that we found a plant in nature. Some people are deficient in our own endogenous endocannabinoids. So I'll give you some examples how that works. But we're lucky that we found this plant in nature that, when heated, when the raw plant cannabis, when it's in its raw form, the chemical formula would be like THC, which is the active ingredient, THCA. So it has an acid molecule. When you heat it, it's called decarboxylation. So the acid molecule drops off and converts to delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and it binds to your CB1 receptors. Your CB1 receptors are located mostly in your brain and your central nervous system, etc. And when it binds, it releases anandamide. When you consume CBD without the acid molecule, it has an affinity for the CB2 receptor, which is mostly located in your immune, digestive system. So it helps to modulate and regulate those. So that's how the endocannabinoid system works when it gets signals from the other systems. Let's say one of your systems is out of balance. It sends that signal up the central nervous system like salmon swimming upstream to the brain. And then mostly the amygdala part of the brain decides which neurochemical to release and how much of that. So release is that anandamide. And then if you're deficient in your own endogenous anandamide, then you can substitute that with the plant. But the idea is that it'll release those neurochemicals to get that system back in balance. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. And that's a very good description of what I was listening to. So give us an example of a real life example of one versus the other.
Yeah. And I'll give you a couple of examples because you brought up this whole gummy, you had a gummy question, edible. So I'll give you an example of how the endocannabinoid system and how your genetics are involved and what happens to an individual. So let's say that I'm walking down the street and a car pulls out of nowhere, almost hits me. So there is that fight or flight or, freeze kind of a response. So you're going to have neurochemicals that are pumped into your bloodstream. You're going to have some dopamine, you have some adrenaline, some converted norepinephrine, cortisol. So it's all in your bloodstream. And then your brain realizes, oh no, I'm safe. There's no lion chasing me. I'm good. So now there's a reuptake of those neurochemicals. And then your brain releases new neurochemicals, including anandamide and 2-AG. So if you have a genotype, there's a certain gene called FA, fatty acid amide hydrolase. That gene produces, or that polymorphism produces an enzyme that breaks down anandamide. So if you're breaking down more anandamide than the average person, you're not producing enough of your own. That cortisol level that's excreted into your blood can stay there longer. And when it stays there longer, your immune system can say, oh, we need to go there and figure this out. So when it goes to that area, when your immune system addresses that, it overreacts, and then you'll feel inflammation, pain, etc. Now, if you have gut health issues, it can actually epigenetically to turn on the switch of gut health issues, and now you're having gut health issues. Now, you can subsidize with the delta-9 THC, as I mentioned. If you take the right dose and you actually subsidize what you're deficient in because you're breaking it down so rapidly, now you can get back to balance and you don't have to have that overactive immune response. But THC has a very narrow therapeutic window. So depending on how much you take, if you take a little bit too much and you have predispositions to things like stress reactivity, PTSD, or on the other flip side, like depressive states, etc., it can actually trigger the epigenetic response that you're predisposed to, and you can have an adverse event. And when we talk about gummies, for instance, edibles, so you have these series of genes they're called cytochrome P450, CYP450. We all have them. They all produce enzymes that metabolize things like there's one for lactose, there's one for gluten. So if we have these, we don't metabolize them well. There's specific ones for cannabinoids. There's one for CBD, there's one for THC, and there's one for CBD and THC together. So if you're a poor metabolizer of THC and you're taking a gummy and edible, when it goes to your first pass, so it goes to your liver will convert that to an oxyhydroxide. So it's a metabolite of THC. So you're not actually getting the one that goes into your bloodstream, you're getting the metabolite of it. Same thing with alcohol or anything else that we consume through our liver. And if you're a poor metabolizer, it'll be a slower onset. It'll be a much more powerful onset, last longer. And if you have those predispositions to PTSD or stress or even psychotic episodes, somebody can have a very, very adverse event. Which actually happened. To give you a story, I used Grandma Mary. I'm not going to mention the real name, but Grandma Mary was living in an assisted living facility, and she was going through chemo, and she had cancer, and she was going through chemo, and her doctor told her take cannabis. So she went to a dispensary, and she met a wonderful bud tender who told her, "Hey, Grandma, I have some gummies for you, but don't take a lot. Don't take more than 2." So Grandma Mary went back to her assisted living facility, took 2 gummies, waited, nothing happened. Waited some more. And then she had what she described is a psychedelic experience for 2 days. She was high for 2 days. So Grandma then did a DNA test, and she found out that she was a poor metabolizer, slow metabolizer. She had stress reactivity. She had all these other genes. So when she realized that, the formulation changed to a more balanced formulation, sublingual, so it bypassed her liver so she could consume it underneath her tongue, like a
Uh-huh.
tincture
Uh-huh.
or a buccal cavity. And then she had a completely different experience. So the cannabinoid ratio was more balanced, 50% CBD to THC, and also the terpene profiles, which are the essential oils of the plant that work in conjunction with the genetics, they were different as well. So more calming, relaxing, not sedative. And then what she would do is she would have her business cards and she would hand it out to the people that were getting chemo, because it's like a group with a curtain. She was giving them
Uh-huh.
out. If you want to feel better after your chemo, do this test and call these guys. So
Yeah, very cool. And you in your talk, you also mentioned that indica and sativa, you basically said that's not really a good delineation between the 2. Can you expound on that a little bit?
yeah, there really isn't no such thing as indica and sativa anymore. So we had what's referred to as land race chemical varieties. That means they originally or originated in a certain region of the country. So the original indica plants originated in somewhere around like Afghanistan, India, Kashmir region, and they went through like a pretty harsh climate, weather changes, wind, so and then predators in that area. So the plant, if you really looked at it originally, it was low to the ground, it grew wide, not tall, and it gave off a very skunky, diesely smell. And that is the terpenes, the essential oils that plant produced to sort of get rid of the possible predators that were native to that land at that time. So that skunky, diesely smell is associated with a terpene profile called myrcene, which is sedative, which is high in those indica dominant plants or the original indica plants. The other plants that are more sativa dominant, they kind of grow differently. They grew in climates like South Africa, Durban, or like Hawaii, the original Maui's. They grow tall to the sun, and they have a little bit of a more like a fruitier type of smell. And that has to do
Oh.
with the terpene profile called limonene. So limonene boosted your dopamine production. Myrcene is more sedative. So these are the original plants. But as we started cultivating them more and more, we created hybrids. So we crossed all these plants together. And now there's no such thing as indica sativa pure because we don't have those. But when you look at it, it's indica or sativa dominant, and it has to do with that terpene profile. So if their primary terpenes or essential oils are myrcene, and that means it's more sedative. If it's
Uh-huh.
limonene, as an example, it means that it's more sativa, gives you more of that boost of energy. So you have to kind of look at what the terpene profile is to give you an indication. Is it going to be more sedative or more, kind of energizing? Here's the challenge with that. The reason why I even thought of, doing the company and all that stuff, when I had dispensaries, one of the guys there, he asked if you want to consume some cannabis. So yeah, I said we have some of this sativa dominant stuff. He goes, no, that stuff puts me to sleep. I said, no. I said sativa, like supposed to give you the boost up. He goes, not for me. It does the opposite, puts me to sleep. So I was like,
Interesting.
oh, well, different people react differently. That's why cannabis is
Uh-huh.
personal.
Yeah. So let's talk more about EndoDNA. So
Mhm.
you started this. For one thing, you're a phenomenal entrepreneur, and that's just been your spirit since you were born. But when you got into EndoDNA, it was mostly for the cannabis industry, correct? And
Yeah,
then it go ahead.
Yeah. The idea was originally to solve an issue. I wanted to make sure that everybody has a personal experience. I wrote a book on it. It's called Making Cannabis Personal, whatever you can get it on Amazon. But the idea was that we are all individuals and the endocannabinoid system is misunderstood and people are having these adverse effects. So let's guide people. So, you know, I didn't want the industry to suffer because it's interesting. When somebody drinks a bunch of tequila and has a really adverse effect, nobody's calling Don Julio and saying, hey, Don Julio, what did you do to me? You gave me. No, you're saying, I took too much. I learned from that.
Right.
We blame the plant instead of pointing the fingers to ourselves. So I want to kind of guide people. And we became pretty successful. I mean, we have numerous patents and stuff, and we have thousands of customers, 16 different countries. But I'm always trying to solve what's the next issue. And this is great. And there's some limitations to that based on the legalities and all that stuff. It's very, very complicated business. Even though we don't touch the plant, we're still pigeonholed in this sort of space due, algorithms and all that other stuff. So, the idea is to be able to create something that'll help personalize an experience for individuals. And I got a call from a doctor that said, hey, I'm seeing, and she specializes in female hormone health for the most part. And she
Mhm.
said to me, I'm seeing a lot of women in their late 20s, early 30s with perimenopause symptoms. It's like, really? That's super surprising to me, but maybe it's the hormones in the water and the food. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
It's not.
Yeah.
So, and then she goes, I'm also seeing a lot of women who are going through menopause and getting really severe adverse effects like hot flash severity, hot flash frequency, weight gain, sleep issues. So, is there a way that we can get ahead of some of these issues? So, I have a tendency to say yes to everything and I figure it out later. So I'm like, yeah,
Right.
of course we can. So then
Yeah.
I went back to my team and yes, we can. And we did. And we created a female hormone health test. Then we created a male hormone health test. And then we proceeded to look at the entire genome and see what else can we do for doctors.
Huh?
And we started looking at different tests, regenerative health and wellness, male, female hormone health, skin, nutrigenomics. And then we got contacted by a company that was doing a clinical trial for Alzheimer's. So we did more of a cognitive test as well. But I also learned something along the way. And I'm gonna say it really low because we'll keep it between us. Doctors don't really understand genetics.
Yeah.
Epigenetics a little bit more, but not genetics.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, oh, we have to create something that allows doctors to be able to understand what the report says. So
Uh-huh.
instead of having genetic counselors, nothing against genetic counselors, is there a way that we can leverage AI to help them?
Right.
So we build a platform called BIOS. BIOS is their own personal AI large language model that allows you to interrogate the genome. So the doctor can now chat with your DNA, can ask it questions. He can provide, different, not only your DNA, but your blood work, all your labs, and then provide a suggested protocol for the doctor to use in their treatment plan. And the way that we have it set up, it's three parts. The first is prescriptive. So anything pharmaceutical, anything they want to prescribe to the patient could be
Uh-huh.
hormones. The second one is supplementation. So this is anything that's can be nutrients, vitamins, minerals, or it could be peptides or, something that's not prescriptive. The next is lifestyle modifiers. So that means exercise. It could be a diet. It could be a red light therapy, sauna, etc. Now that they have that and they save that, the patient has that as well, and they have some to follow. But here's what I think is my favorite part. How do you know that that protocol is working for the individual? And what we're doing is we're setting up epigenetic testing and biomarker testing compared to baselines. So when they come back in 3 months, they take another test and we can see if there's any changes, something's been methylated or unmethylated, turn on or turn off, do we see
Uh-huh.
how well the protocol is working for that individual. And the AI can make those suggestions to the doctor. They can modify as needed. And then the system continuously learns.
That's incredible. For physicians that are listening, how does someone get a hold of you and start this journey with their patients?
Yeah, it's endodna.com. That's
Okay.
our website. My email is len, at endodna.com. I am on all the social platforms. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm under Len May. The only one that's not Len May, I think, is Instagram. It's Len May DNA, but you can still put me up there. And
Okay. And we
yeah,
will have all those links in the show notes as well. Tell us tell us a little bit about your coaching.
yeah. Uh, so I've been coaching on and off for many years, and what happened was I was doing this. I was asked to do sales training for a bunch of different companies. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do is between kind of gigs. And so I started sales training in some of these big companies. And I was sitting and talking to one of the CEOs years ago, and he was complaining about, I don't know if you're familiar with the four burner theory. The four burner theory is like this theory in entrepreneurship that a lot of entrepreneurs try to keep four burners on at the same time. So their business, their health, their family, whatever that is. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that. So what happens is they focus on maybe one. So their business is growing rapidly, $100 million company, their marriage is falling apart. They're eating McDonald's every day and they're not having a good relationship with their kids or something like that. So, and a lot of these uh, CEOs or C-suite level individuals that I was working with also had ADHD or ADD diagnosis or perceived that. So I was like, oh, maybe I can help you. And I started working with C-level because I was diagnosed and I can have my systems in place that I used for myself for many years. My ex-wife was like, why do you eat the same thing for lunch every day? I'm like, because you don't understand. I open up the fridge, there's 30 choices. I mean, well, maybe this, maybe that, and my lunch is over already. Like, you have to
Uh-huh.
understand, my neurodivergent brain thinks differently. But we can also lean in to what our superpower is of ADD because now we have the ability to recognize patterns and things that don't seem like they're patterns. So that's like multitask more effectively with the right guardrails in place. So I started doing that, and I think I helped a lot of people. I have some really good. I don't want to call it testimonials, but case studies that people I'm so proud of that were able to change their lives around, their businesses around. It's an incredible feeling. I love to give that because it comes back to me tenfold. But I was so busy with this company, and then it happened again. And I started talking to some people and talking to colleagues of mine, and they were like, "Oh, I'm having this issue." So I'm like, you know, it's interesting. Maybe I should resurrect my coaching again. And also, this is what happened. I was given a talk. I don't remember which one it was, but the person who was introduced me as Len May. He's an autodidactic polymath. And I was like, what'd you call me? My Philly
Right,
came out. I was like,
exactly.
what's up? And then, I had to look it up, and I'm like, okay, autodidactic and like singularly focused. Polymath is somebody who becomes an expert in a field without going to school for it because they're interested. And I'm like, sounds like me. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's what I do. I'm like, I didn't go to school for genetics. I didn't go to school for really like whatever I like. I dive in deep. So I started reading a book on polymaths, and they were saying that the poster child of polymaths is like Leonardo da Vinci.
Uh-huh.
And, he obviously we all know painter, inventor, all these different things. And then I started digging deeper. I'm like, wait a second, it took him 10 years to paint the Mona Lisa. There was all these people who were really upset with him because he did hundreds of things, but he left thousands of things unfinished. I'm like, I wonder if he has ADHD, if he had it. And I started following down the trend. I'm like, what about this person, Ben Franklin? I'm following all these great polymaths, Sir Richard Branson.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, it seems to me that there is a pattern. So I went to look around for a book and I couldn't find anything. So I'm like, maybe I have to write it. So the idea is so that's why I wrote Jack of all trades, master of some, and it's the connection between ADHD and polymath, and it's called rewiring the modern genius because I really believe that there is a neurodivergence is a genius if used correctly. So coaching is part of that process on being able to take people who are already maybe successful, however they define success, but they feel that something is missing. They're feeling unfulfilled. Maybe they're trying to burn those four burners at the same time. So it's helping to create a process and system for those people to be able to leverage their gift and their superpower to be more fulfilled.
I think that's incredible. And I see here, you start with you do the genetic testing, you do wellness, you have in-depth review of your results, and then you do a customized health and wellness plan, ongoing accountability and support. But this isn't just about health, is it? What you just described is you could help someone, not to take away from Grant Cardone, but 10x their business, 10x their life, all those things.
Yeah, I don't think you can take anything away from Grant Cardone. He takes everything in himself. I had this conversation with the 10X people before. I'm like, uh, you know, epigenetics is a wonderful thing and it's great. And I think it's really important. Your DNA is your GPS of life. It shows you where your personal potholes are in the road. And if you're only doing epigenetic testing, how do you know that what you're turning on should be turned on and vice versa? So I really think there's a combination of the two. And it is about leaning into what you're already predisposed to, what your power is, and being able to, as exactly what you said, 10x everything in your life, but manage your expectations. And this is the thing that I think we get caught up. I get caught up as an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm focusing on my business. But if I'm doing this in the way I used to do this, that means I'm sitting on my, can I say ass? I'm sitting on my
Yes.
ass. I'm saying I'm sitting on my ass like 12 hours a day. And what happens to my fitness? What happens to my personal health? Well, then I don't have time to eat. So I'm going to pick something up at the store or I'm going to pick something up at a fast food. Now, because I'm not feeling great, it's affecting my business. It's creating brain fog. We're all interconnected. It starts with ourselves. And even this notion of being fulfilled, I really believe that you can be fulfilled in many different ways. And it doesn't have to be, I got to find something that's fulfilling to me. Well, you can find something that's fulfilling to you right now. And then tomorrow, it may be something else as well.
Right.
So you don't have to be that hard on yourself. And this is the thing that I learned, what I did for myself and how I didn't give myself enough love. I didn't fill my own cup. All these things came, to a head with me, but now I'm shifting that for myself. So I figured if I can do that for me, I'm my own guinea pig with everything that I do. If it
Yeah.
works for me, I want to help other people, but I'm going to try it on myself. I'm going to do my own genetic test first. I'm going to do my own epigenetic test first. I'm going to do my own gut microbiome test first. So once I figure it out, now I can share with other people. And I really think that, a lot of people have a gift that they think is a burden. And that's what I want to have people kind of flip.
Yeah, see it in a different light. I can't wait to do it. As soon as we get off here, I'm gonna get back into my email with you and take care of that. What's next for you? I know, oh, you've written your book. That's done. What's next?
Next thing is we really want EndoDNA to be the standard of care for medicine, at least in the United States. And unfortunately, we have two separate systems of healthcare in the United States. We have a sick care system and we have, or I'll call it even sick care / acute care and chronic healthcare system. And, I'm not sure what I can do to solve the first one. We have insurance in place. We have the FDA, we have big pharma, we have all these guardrails and these different things that we can't do. And if you're seeing a doctor and they're spending 15 minutes with you and they're writing you a script, part of it is on us too. Because look, if we have a pain in our elbow, we go to the doctor, say, I have an elbow pain. Doctor says, did you bang it? No. Were you playing tennis? No. What's going on? I don't know. A pain. Okay. Well, I have something for you. I can even give you an injection. It'll take away the pain, or I can give you a pill. Which one do you choose? Whatever one you chose. You know what, doc? That injection helped me with my pain. So I feel good about what you just did. And the doctor says, well, I just helped you with your pain and I did no harm. So both of us feel good about the experience.
Right.
However, what caused the pain in the first place? Then you want to know that. I mean, if you're just taking care of the symptoms, you're not addressing the root cause. And this is what, sick care and acute care. Listen, if I have a fracture, I wouldn't want to go to any other doctor than in the US. I mean, we have the best acute care specialists anywhere. But the chronic conditions, a lot of them are caused by, uh, stress and all these other things, the way we eat. We can address those things. And functional medicine, integrated medicine, that is who we're looking to standardize on, looking at your genetic, your epigenetics, your labs, how you interrogate all that stuff. Let's look at the big picture and prevent some of these things that we're predisposed to from actually expressing themselves. And what's next is that it's getting it out to as many doctors as possible that are not sick here. And some of them don't want to be, but they're just stuck in that kind of quagmire. So let them start using the platform to actually prevent some of these things from happening.
I think that's awesome. So if you are a patient, you can go, is lenmaycoaching.com where they should go first?
They should go to EndoDNA. EndoDNA is our
EndoDNA first. Okay.
EndoDNA is our corporate site.
Okay.
There, if you're a doctor and you want to use the platform, EndoDNA. If you're a patient and you would want your doctor to use it, same exact thing.
Okay. Go to the endodna.com.
Yeah.
And then the lenmaycoaching.com, that's who's your best client for that, would you say?
I think it's, I was doing it for the endocannabinoid system. There's a lot of people that came to me and said, we want to try cannabis, or I've had adverse experiences. So that was the first for it. But now it's focusing on people that really have ADHD or think they have ADHD, and what we can do to help people kind of use that as their superpower. So that's probably the ideal customer or a client for me.
Let's talk about that just a second. Using ADHD as your superpower. Go.
How? Well, so I'll give you ADHD. What it is, you're born with a depletion of dopamine. So what happens is your brain is always searching for the next squirt of dopamine, and that's why you have these scroll moments. And it's very, very hard to focus when you feel something else going on. Like it seems overwhelming to you sometimes. But if you have the right system in place, not everything is urgent and important. You can
Right.
actually strategically create your life and then anchor your life with hits of dopamine as a reward system. So I'll give you an example of how that can work. And I'll tell you what the advantage is. So I don't like to go to the gym. I'm not that kind of guy that like, I love going to the gym. When I'm there, I like it. I go 4 or 5 times. Like I make it a must for myself.
Uh-huh.
But the reason I anchor it, I love going to sauna. So for me, I get my dopamine hit. I don't want to, but I know that I dangle my carrot that says I'm going to go to the sauna and I'm going to enjoy that. So I can go through that as long as I can anchor it with a hit of dopamine at the end. The other
Yeah.
thing, I know what my flow state is. So I can go on a hike. Luckily, I live in LA, so I can pretty much go all year round. But I know where my flow state is. I know how to prime myself for flow state. So all my neurochemistry is firing at the best moments. So, but all these things, like I talked about pattern recognition. So pattern recognition, and there's genetics involved in this too. You have genetic predispositions to ADHD. You have genetic predispositions to impulsivity. All these things. So we'll look at your genetic predispositions. We'll make sure we get ahead of those. We'll create systems in place that allow you to utilize your pattern recognition and multitask effectively. However, if you get out of your lane, now you can't make a decision because now you have 12 things that are going on. Let's keep them to 3. And that way
Uh-huh.
you can connect those things. So being able to create a dopamine reward system anchored with good habits, remove the bad ones, take action. A lot of people are like, especially with ADHD, or is this, mm, uh, paralysis by analysis kind of thing. You're trying to
Uh-huh.
perfect, but when we as people with ADHD do best when our backs up against the wall, because we're screening the most neurochemistry at the time. So what can we do so we don't have to procrastinate till the last second? What can we do to get ahead of that and prime ourselves for that dopamine reward as we go through the process? So those are some of the things that we would work on.
Would you say most entrepreneurs are ADHD or ADD?
I would say, I think there's a study about 3/4 of billionaires are neurodivergent in some way, ADHD, and they're obviously a lot of them are polymaths as well. So
Uh-huh.
in my research, that's exactly what I saw. Entrepreneurs, yeah, probably undiagnosed, but it's exactly that. And it's
Yeah.
being able, and I don't even know if they realize that they're using it as their superpower, because
Uh-huh.
I can tell really quickly when you talk to somebody, are they that person is like my daughter. I'm not like you. I can't do these things. Let me focus on this. I'm like, what do you mean? You have this. So, and my business partner the same way. I know people that are not like that. For
Okay.
me, I'm doing multiple things at once, and I know where everything is, so to speak. So yeah, I would say that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are ADHD, but they subconsciously learn how to utilize that as their superpower without even knowing that they're doing that. So if we can take that and replicate it and show them how to show up like that over and over and over, they can do anything.
Well, this has been incredibly interesting to me. The cannabis world has not been a big piece of my life, just like I tried it a couple of times and it didn't suit me, so
Mhm.
I thought, why bother with that? So I'm incredibly interested in not only doing the EndoDNA for myself, but also instilling it into our functional medicine clinics we have. And then also, any consulting and things that we do to offer that as well. I'm very excited about that. And I just really appreciate your time, Lynn. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
No, I appreciate you having me. I just think that, people need to ask for real healthcare. And it's unfortunate, and I'm learning it more and more. But what it gave rise to is this incredible, tidal wave of functional medical professionals, and it's a beautiful thing. I was at A4M, uh, both in December and in the spring, and it's growing rapidly. And we have so many more doctors looking at so many things. I was talking to this doctor of Chinese medicine, and we talk about alternative medicine. Alternative to what? This medicine's
Uh-huh.
been going on for thousands of years.
Right.
Plant medicine was going on for thousands of years. Pharma is taking those plants and creating isomers and creating drugs from those plants. But what's alternative? I think we're alternative to what the real medicine is. So
Yes.
I really want people to understand that it's not just one way. If we can take everything that's been done, East, West, combine them all together and
Uh-huh.
create real personalized, protocols for people, look at plants, look at everything holistically, I think we'll be a much healthier society, and we'll be better contributors to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lynn. We appreciate your expertise and everything you've brought to the world so far. I'm excited to see what you do before you're probably maybe not even a quarter of the way finished with everything you're going to accomplish.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Hormone Heroes. Take a moment to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. While you are there, help us spread the word by leaving a rating and a review. If you would like to share your bioidentical hormone story or need help finding a physician in your area, please email us at drkelly@hormoneheroes.org. That's DRKELLY at HORMONEHEROES.org. We want you to be a hormone hero.